Hello, hello. Should be live. Get this over here. How we doing today? All right, so can you hear me? Anyone here? Anyone in chat? I see I have some viewers. Just getting started. We'll let some people join in just a few moments. There we are. Some people hitting up. Okay, we can hear. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure we're up and live. Let me know in chat if something is buggy, confusing, weird, messed up. But I think we're good. I think we're good. Cool. We'll give the audience a little time to join in before we really dig in. I will pop in right here. There is the link I put into chat. Cool. All right. Good. All good feedback. All right. Excellent. Let me add this to the description if I can. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to put this in the description of the video, our Google link. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow along together. I haven't built out anything yet. We'll do it together. We'll go through it. We'll make sense of what the numbers are. I just put the link in the description, and it's in the chat. And we're giving people, I'm stalling, so give me a few minutes. We're not even me. I'm good. I'm ready to go. But we're going to give the rest of the audience a few minutes. So let them see the link and join in. So how's everyone doing? Let's hit up a few names in chat. Blake, thanks for coming. Sean, Todd Tango, Blake, Adam, Russ, Izzy, Mr. Lee, Michael. Those are the ones I see so far. Thank you all for joining. Thanks for coming in. And we're going to dig in. I don't think the Lakers have actually waived Quinn Cook yet. All right, let me pull up my email. I am stalling it about another minute or two, and then we'll kind of dig in full force. But I'm checking my email to see if there are any press releases, because what they do is they send it out. And I'm not seeing anything, although I've got a ton of emails this morning. Let's check one more spot. Nope, no word yet from the Lakers officially, so there's no word on Quinn being cut just yet. The deadline today is 2 p.m. my time, LA time, so 5 p.m. Eastern time. Hey, Shireen, what's going on? Good to see you in the front row. Excellent. Thanks for joining us. Jay, Rocky, if I'm missing you, let me know. I'm looking forward, Sean, to what I have to say too. I don't know what I have to say. We'll discover it together. I will say, as we get started, I got to do a couple of things, a couple of housekeeping things. Number one, like the video. That does a lot for me. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so that you can be aware when I'm streaming. My schedule is a little haphazard, so I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to stream and when I'm not. And I'm also producing some videos, which I'm really happy about and enjoying. I was writing a bunch of scripts last night just on the draft pick situation for each and every team, and the goal is to get all 30 teams up and ready and uploaded and on the site on YouTube, so that when we hit the trade deadline, you can say, okay, wait, what can this team offer? What can't they offer? Because there are a lot of teams that are totally stuck in the mud when it comes to draft picks. I did one on Dallas, and I did one on this crazy draft pick that's been traded 6 times, which was like, I don't know if anyone's going to watch that video much because it's really obscure. But if you're geeking out on this stuff, I had a blast making it, and it was just fun to track how complicated these things can get. Let's see here. Shireen says, yeah, you heard on Clubhouse this news. Yeah, I haven't done Clubhouse yet. I'm on an Android. I got invited, and I don't have an iPhone, so either I get an iPhone, which I don't plan on doing, or I wait for them to come out on Android. What's up, Chris? Okay, so a few more housekeeping things. You'll notice in the chat there's a way to donate. That means a lot, makes it worthwhile for my time, although I love doing this. But if you have the means, please donate. You'll get a little pop-up in the chat. Also, you'll find my Discord, Patreon, and PayPal links either in the spreadsheet, or I'll put them in the description if they're not there already of the video. It means a ton. At Eric Pincus on Venmo, or if you want to join my Discord server, you could do so through my Patreon, which we've got a really fun community, and we've been just going back and forth like crazy as these things happen. So we had a lot of debate and discussion just on everything that's coming up on this stream already. And we dug into I wrote on the Wolves recently, and I solicited some advice. Just wanted some opinions from the really smart people that we have on our Discord, and it helped kind of inform me of where to go in my investigation on writing on the Wolves. I had actually written on the Wolves for Bleacher Report before they fired Ryan Saunders, and it just sort of, I'd written it. It was set to publish on Monday morning. I was out on Sunday night doing a thing, and I got the news, and my editors were like, all right, we'll adjust the intro. But it was really good timing for me, I guess, because I had already written on that. All right, so let's dig in. Oh, one more thing. I think this will work. I'm still. Let's see. Is this it? Yes. No. Hold on. Did I hit the wrong button? I think I did hit the wrong button. There it is. That's the one. If you sign up for Larry's CBA Mastery class, please use one of my codes. It is like the best way to learn this stuff in depth. If you're interested in working in the NBA, if you're interested in working for an agent for the league itself, as an intern, all of the aspects in the media, and you want to understand how the CBA works, Larry has like a intensive class that is a lot of fun. I mean, if this sort of thing, if you're watching this stream, then clearly there's something wrong with you. No, clearly you're diehard into like understanding the NBA and this sort of thing. And so if you are ready to take that next step, go ahead and sign up for Larry's class. Use my code Pincus, Pincus, if you're paying in full, or just use the payment plan. My code is PincusPP. And there's a bit.ly link, and it's also in the Google Sheet. So let's get back to where we were, which should be our welcome screen. There you go. All right, so let's talk Quinn Cook. So the Lakers signed Quinn Cook last year for a 2-year deal, of which only $1 million was guaranteed for this season. The Lakers waived him, and they ate $1 million of his salary, so that's on their books. Then they re-signed him on what's called a summer contract, which is basically non-guaranteed, doesn't even hit the salary cap. It's only considered like a real contract. I mean, we can quibble about the semantics, but it's like a real NBA contract once he makes the team, if he makes the team, which he did. But the natural cut-down date for all players in the league who do not have something specified in their contract, you could have an earlier date specified. It could be the start of the season. It could be August. Under normal circumstances, August, assuming someone signs in July. It could be December 1st. It could be any combination of things, but it can't be later than the league-wide cut-down date. And that date this year is the 27th of February. But it's too confusing because you have to cut a player in time for them to clear waivers by the 27th. So the real deadline is the 24th. And so that's where we're at right now, which is why we're hearing the news about Quinn Cook, because this decision needed to be made. Normally, under normal circumstances, the deadline is January 10th, and a player needs to be cut by January 7th. And I used to always say January 10th, and then I'd put in the notes that they have to clear waivers, and it was too confusing. Most people would just think it was the 10th, and then the deadline would pass on the 7th. They'd be confused. They wouldn't get it. So I'm just sticking with the 7th, and in this particular case now, in this odd year, the 24th. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to a couple things. Let's go over to this other camera here. All right, and this right here is the NBA salaries page on Basketball Insiders. And what you'll find here is each and every team, and we're going to jump real quick to the Lakers, and hopefully you can see all this. Okay, so I published these pages, all 30 teams, put a lot of love into it. It's, in my opinion, the best resource out there for this sort of thing, but you know, that's because I work really hard on it. I'm sure there's other people who do great work as well, some who copy from me, but you know, we won't get into that. But if we take a look at this salary page here, we can see obviously LeBron and AD making all that they're making. And you get down to one player, a different color, and that's Quinn Cook. If you're colorblind, I can help. There's some, I can just reach out if you're colorblind. Hit me with an email or something else. But if you hover over the player's name, you can see a little note, and it'll tell you more detail right there. And then also, if you scroll down, there is a section here called non-guaranteed salary. So if you're colorblind, it's in the body, or if you just want to look there. Oops, I have the wrong date there. Yikes. Well, there we go. Now I got to fix that. Interesting. Typo. I'm glad I found it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to fix that real quick. Pull this up right here. And while we're at it, let me bring you over to this camera and take you into, make sure you have this link here. I'm going to put it in one more time. It should be in the description. Okay, so what this is this is a Google sheet that you can all view. It's obviously read-only, but you can follow along. I highly recommend that you do so, because what that does is it enables you to see the work that I'm doing and follow it along with the formulas. And to me, I think that's the best way to learn, to be honest. Hold on a second. Make sure that, okay, we're still good. As you notice, I'm trying this out. I put the live stream, the chat here, so you can see the chat. Hope that kind of helps. I think it's kind of cool. I was trying to figure that thing out for a bit, so I'm still working on the layouts. But while we're talking, I'm stalling because I'm fixing that typo on the Basketball Insiders page, which is annoying. All right, there we are. Okay, cool. Should be fixed. Take a quick peek. Okay, there it is. 24. All right, so let's dig into our spreadsheet. Adam, you didn't know you could hover for more info? Yeah, maybe I should put something in the Basketball Insider sheet, you know, on the top that says hover over or something like that. Yeah. Oh, you know what? It does say that. Hold on. Let's take a look at what it says. It says right here, click the red player name for detailed contract notes. That doesn't feel, I feel like that's something old. That was a different color scheme because it doesn't tell you what you should do. I think that's something I'll need to talk to our developers about cleaning up, because it used to be red, I think, and I think if you clicked on it, it would pop up. So I'm not going to blame you, Adam, for not knowing that. I would agree that it's probably a little confusing. So, but taking a quick look here, one thing to note about the Lakers is that they have a hard cap, and that's this number right here. And the reason why they have a hard cap is because, because of these transactions. Wow, another typo. Because of this transaction right here, Montrezl Harrell. They signed Montrezl Harrell to a 2-year, $18.978 million contract, and on the same day they signed Wesley Matthews. And these are via the biannual exceptions. We're going to come back here. The biannual exceptions and the mid-level exceptions. And when you use those, you trigger what's called a hard cap. And once you have a hard cap, there's no way back from that. You are locked in for that for the entire season. And so the Lakers have a very hard spending limit. So let me fix one more thing, and we'll dig into the numbers right away, right after that. Let me grab this over here. And one more fix, and then we'll be good to go. It's funny how you only see typos when you're going back at a different time. You don't see them when you make them, even though you look at these pages all the time. All right, good to go. Okay, so let's go into our sheet. There we are, we're cleaned up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to copy and paste some of this stuff in. It'll take a minute to get the formatting perfect, but hopefully this will work. Okay, chat, we see what I'm doing here? Let's see. Let me make sure this looks right. Okay, I think we're good. I can go to about column G before I hit the chat box. Okay. All right, we see the numbers in the Google Sheet, just typing in the chat. All right, so let me clean this up a little bit here. So this is the player, this is the salary. These are two-way contracts, so they do not count against the salary cap. They are making about, gosh, what are they making? They're making $449. I feel like it's 516. I think I have that number right here. Oh, I was close. 449,115. So let's paste that right there. So actually earning this year, not on cap or tax. So that's for Devontae and for Costas. Let's make sure we're good. Okay. One more thing I got to peek at and make sure. I think we look good. Okay, I think we're good. Let me pull this over here. Okay, so these are waived players. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to color these real quick. Let's make them gray. And what we're going to do here with Cook is we're going to make him a little bit of a different color, just so he stands out a little bit. Doesn't really matter which one. Let's do that one, and we'll say non-guaranteed. But there's also something here with Dennis Schroeder where he has incentives of, I think it's 1.5 mil unlikely. I'm going to double check that real quick. I try not to go off of memory. I have it all right here. Dennis is 1.5 unlikely. Okay. So if we total this up, and I'll move it down a little bit in just a moment. Give me a second here. I'm writing at the bottom. Let's scroll. There we are. It's a little tight. We might not be able to squeeze it into one screen. And if we say salary cap, which is 109,140,123, you can see that the Lakers are quite over the cap, which isn't really necessarily what our focus is today. Right? So they're over the cap, well over the cap, not even an issue. What we're going to do for the sake of the tax, because we're not really worried about the two-way players, we're going to copy this again, but I'm going to delete some of it. So we're copying it here. So now what we're worried about is the tax line. Actually, we're worried about the hard cap. So the first one is our salary cap computation. The second one is our hard cap computation. And let me make sure I get this right. It's 138,928,123. Okay. And what we don't need anymore are these two because they are, delete rows, because they are two ways. They don't factor in. And so the Lakers, this would be hard cap under the hard cap. There's no way the Lakers can go over the hard cap, period, under any circumstances, period. And that's kind of an important thing to note. So in the front row is asking, why wouldn't they cut a two-way and give that to Quinn Cook? Well, as you can see, if we look at the top, if you cut Quinn Cook, rather if you cut Devontae or Costas, they don't impact the numbers at all. Hold on a second. They're not on the hard cap. They're not on the cap at all. And Quinn Cook has been in the league too long to be eligible for a two-way contract. So looking at Quinn, take a look at how many years of service he has. He is at, Quinn Cook, he's at 4 years of service. So to Shireen's question, I'll put a note here. 4 years, YOS is years of service, makes him eligible for a two-way. So he is not eligible to sign a two-way. Okay, so it looks like the Lakers are fine, right? Like it looks like they have plenty of room under the hard cap. But it's a little more complicated because what you're looking at is what is the most that the Lakers could possibly pay out in salary, period, if you include every dollar. That amount can't go over the hard cap. And so since Dennis Schroeder has some incentives that aren't likely, It is possible that he'll hit them, and if he does, then if that puts the Lakers over the hard cap, that's illegal. And so when we're trying to calculate like how much cap room they have or other figures, his salary is $16 million, but because of those $1.5 million in incentives, his number is actually that right there, 17.5 million. And I put a note here, added his 1.5 mil in incentives to his 16 mil salary base plus likely incentives. What's his base? His base is right there. It is, oops. Let me scroll over. Give me a second. I'm looking on another screen. I can't show you guys everything as much as I'd like to. His base is actually 15.5 mil plus 500K likely incentive. And when I say his, I'll put DS so that there's no confusion. Okay. So as you can see, the Lakers are under the hard cap, but they're only under the hard cap by $952,000. And that's a problem because they only have 14 players, right? If they want to add a 15th player, and if they were to sign a 15th player today, right? So today is what day? Let me go to my proration table here. It's the 23rd. Get it. There it is, proration. And today is the 23rd. Excuse me. So let me make sure I get this right. 9/20. Yep. So today, if a player signed a contract, I know you can't see this. I'm going to scroll. Today with the Lakers, 2/23/21, they would make a prorated $921,280. Okay, so I'm scrolling down for you. Okay. So here's the issue. If the Lakers wanted to sign someone outright today, they would be over the hard cap by $9,000 roughly, and that would not be legal. And so if they wait till the 24th, and if we prorate it to the 24th, so if they sign someone on the 24th, that player would make $910,180, which barely fits, but does. So you see the issue here is that the Lakers can get to a 15th player and keep Cook if they want, but they can only sign one player, period. And that player can't sign until the 24th. Totally coincidental that it matches up to the cut down date, just the way it is. I wonder if it is. Yeah, it has. Yeah, because it's. Yeah, it's totally coincidental because this is just specific to the Lakers math. It's totally random. So looking at Quinn Cook, if they cut him or trade him, then it would free up some more money. And if the only other player that would maybe be super expendable might be Alfonso McKinney, since he doesn't play. He's someone who could possibly be traded, but they can't cut him because his salary is fully guaranteed. And then there's also an issue with Cook in that he's earned money, right? He's been with the team for the entire season to date. So we're going to have to calculate real quick that number. I'm not. It'll depend on exactly what day they cut him. I'm assuming it's today. So let's take a look here. So this is where they are now, right? They can sign a 15th. So let's put a note here. Lakers didn't need to cut Cook to add a 15th. But if they want two more players, they're stuck. And if he guarantees that money is there and they can't get out of it, but if they cut him, then some of his money comes off and they have more flexibility. Other options include trade, potentially McKinney, just based on rotation minutes. Or they could trade a player in the rotation. Okay, and teams can trade for minimum contracts without matching. So, for instance, the Lakers could acquire DeMarcus Cousins, just to throw out a name. Cousins, before he's waived by Houston, assuming he is, without matching salary. Since he's a min contract, they can just absorb him via what's called the veterans minimum exception. That's not the exact name of it, but close enough. So the problem there is that if they traded for Cousins and or anyone else making the minimum, which is 1620564 if 2 YOS or more. We'll get into that in a minute. If they had traded for Cousins and only have 912, or let's just call it 913K in room under the hard cap, that's not going to work. Do you see what I'm saying here? I hope that makes sense. Chat, let me know if it's confusing. Could they, Michael's asking me, could they have stretched McKinney for a period of time for 7 years? They could have stretched McKinney. His money would have been guaranteed, and they could have stretched him, but they chose not to. And because they chose not to, the deadline is passed to stretch him for this season. They can stretch him for future seasons, but his future salary is not guaranteed, so there's nothing to stretch. They would have to guarantee his money only to stretch it. So they are out of luck when it comes to stretching McKinney. They're out of luck for stretching Cook or anything for this year. But I want to make sure you guys get what I'm saying with Cousins. Let's say Cousins may not happen. According to, I think, Brad Turner of the LA Times, the Lakers are not looking at Cousins, and Brad is well connected, and he doesn't, he's getting that from somebody related to the Lakers, associated with the Lakers, working for the Lakers. And I worked with Brad for many years with the LA Times, so he's not somebody to just cash in rumor checking for no reason just because he likes to have fun. He's an excellent reporter. So it may not be true, certainly. It could be true and the Lakers change their mind, or it could be not true. It could be not true and he has bad info. I'm going to say more likely than not it's accurate, because I'm going off of his reputation and my relationship with him to say that I trust him as a journalist to say, yeah, he's probably dead on. But we're going to use Cousins in wording right now just to understand, like, if the Lakers wanted to acquire a player like Cousins, they don't have to send out any money. They could just acquire that player on a minimum contract via the veteran minimum exception. You're always allowed to take in a minimum player unless it puts you into the hard cap. And if you're taking in somebody who's making 1.6 and you only have 900-something thousand under the hard cap, you can't take in somebody making 1.6. So the Lakers could do something like McKinney for Cousins, or let's use another name. Another center who may fit what the Lakers need more, which is a JaVale type shot blocker, tall, athletic. Maybe Hassan Whiteside, right? So same idea. I think I spelled Whiteside wrong. If they were to go for Whiteside, again, they could acquire him outright they could send out like a second round pick, but don't have to match any salary, but he's going to be making his 1.6, and we'll talk about what that means, the 1.6, in just a minute. And they only have the 900,000. It doesn't work. So the answer could be trade McKinney, or it could be, technically it could have been trade Cook. But ultimately they're waiving Cook. That gives them flexibility to just sign players outright. If Cousins is cut, clears waivers, and they decide, despite what they're thinking now, they change their mind and decide he's the guy, they can sign him outright. Someone's asking, Tatango's asking Dwayne Dedman. He's somebody out there. He's a shot blocking big who at some point in his career hit the three well, didn't in the last year or so. certainly a name. We can come up with other names. Although Pau Gasol is probably out because he's signing overseas. Is it with Barcelona or Real Madrid? Or I don't know. Someone tell me in chat if you know where Pau is signing. I just saw that it was happening. I didn't see where. Okay, so let's just clarify a few things. This is the minimum table. Let's see if it made it. There it is. Okay. And so the way it works, this is YOS, year of service, and this is the minimum. Min. And so if you're a rookie, you'll make 898. And if you're a one-year player, 1445. And if you're a veteran of 2 years of service, it's 1.6. The league reimburses any player earning a 1 year, it's important, not 2 year, minimum, at the 2 year vet min number. So for instance, a player like Cousins is earning, I believe, 2564753, right? Which is the 10 plus. I think he's at 10 years of service, pretty sure. And his cap hit, so this is his money, what he gets. The team will get hit on their cap at the 2 year vet number, 1620564. This is the cap hit. And then the league is going to reimburse, in this particular case, the Rockets, $944,189 to offset the difference between the two. So when I say a player like Cousins, for all intents and purposes, he is a $1.6 million player in salary cap matching, trades, tax, everything. His actual money's higher, so he's getting paid more. But when we're talking a player like Cousins, it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about, oh, he's 2.5, 2.6. If someone's a 6 year service, they're making 2.0, 2.8, 5.94. It doesn't matter. You treat them like they're 1.6. And then there's one more wrinkle for tax calculation. You bump up a 0 or 1 YOS to the 2 YOS number, unless, oops, that you're not gonna be able to see that because of the chat, right? Let me move this over here. Unless it's a draft pick, a player the team drafted, then it's 0 YOS equals their tax hit, or 1 YOS. If not a draft pick, then it's pushed up to 2 YOS. So the upshot there is that there's no benefit in saying, well, the Lakers can, they're at 912, they could sign a rookie today. The answer is no, they can't, because that rookie will take up 1.6 against the tax. Does that make sense? Let me know, chat, if I'm confusing you or if I've lost you in any way, shape, or form. Cousins, Todd's saying Cousins is season 11. Yeah, anything over 10, 10 or more. So Pau is going to Barca. Okay, yeah, Barcelona, or Barcelona, as he would say. See if there's. I don't think I missed anything else in the chat. So make sure you understand, like, the Lakers can't just sign like a rookie or someone like that. They can sign actually. The guys that they can sign, we'll go over here, is they do have a couple of rookies. Let's see, where do I have that? Okay, so they do have 2 guys. So if they signed Chinimelu Alanu, I'm saying that wrong, I think, or Brad Newley, who were drafted in 2009, so like 12 years ago. And gosh, I mean, these guys are not being signed. They would, if they would sign at the 898 number. So technically, like, they wouldn't have the bump up of their of their tax number to the 1.6. Outside of that, any other rookie is going to be the 1.6. So as we look here, in our example of what we were talking about, here's Jared Dudley, right? He's 1.6 in the cap hit. But if we were to hover over here, it says actual salary 2564753. And same thing with Markeith, right? And so those numbers are, they're making more. You could be happy that they're making more personally, but when it comes to our purposes of math, it simply doesn't come into play. So let's go back over here. And we're going to dig into the Cook number now. All right, so let's go back to the Lakers. And what we need to figure out, I'm going to take out some of these notes real quick. So let's copy and paste. Take out this note. And we know that he's waived. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Cook. So now my understanding, let's see, today is the 23rd. And so let's say that I don't know exactly the timing on this, and that's the challenge. But let's put it in as 226. It might be 227 when he clears waivers. It depends on when the Lakers do it. 227.21. Let's use that simply because it's the higher number. So the way it works is that at that $1.6 million figure, players are making, let me make sure I get this right. So there are 146 days in the season. Make sure I got that right. Okay, so if we were to say this divided by 146, 146 days in the season, a player at 1.6 mil is earning this per day. So a 10-day contract times 10 would be that figure. So this would be 1 day. This would be a 10-day contract. Player with 2 YOS. So obviously it's different number for, like for instance, a rookie would be 898 310, right? So they're making 6,000 a day. A 1-year player would 1145 697. They're making 9,900 a day. And then someone at a higher YOS, even if they're making 2564753, they may be earning 17.6 a day, but their cap hit is what we really care about, which is the 1620564. Right? So that's the daily rate. So if we take a look, and let's say that Quinn Cook clears waivers on the 27th, and I'm padding it a little bit. It'll probably be, it may be the 26th. He hasn't been waived yet. What if he's waived after the 2:00 time today? I'm going to take a quick look at if there's a notice yet. Nope, no notice that he's been waived. Also, hit me on chat if there is breaking news, please. I'm chatting with you all. So, Izzy, we can talk about PJ Tucker if we have time, which I expect we will. I'm hoping we will. We can look at what he had been linked, I believe, by Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN on the broadcast, and I've never seen it. I didn't hear it. It was aggregated by people. I can only assume it's true, questionably. I think it's true that Woj said that. I don't even know for a fact that he said that, but we can entertain the math and just look at what it would mean if the Lakers went after PJ Tucker. All right, so taking a look at Cook, right? Let's say he's cut on 227.01, and I'm putting a question mark. We don't know exactly when. That is 67 days into the season with 79 days left. And so if we were to say he makes 11,000 a day, right? Times 67 days, the number would be 743,683. So if it's 66, depending on the day, times 66. So this is the range we're talking about. Let me scroll up a little bit. This would be, because the days that the player is on waivers, they're still calculated as days on their contract. By the way, if a team claims that player off of waivers, then all that money would come off the books for the Lakers or for any team in that kind of situation. So I'm not assuming that Cook is claimed. But if he were claimed, then that would be that. Now the advantage is, if a team claimed him, they lock in his services, so they don't have to ask, hey, would you like to sign with us? They get him. There's nothing Cook can really do about it within reason. And the challenge there is that they're going to be hit with the full 1.6 million, whereas if he signs later, the number's lower, and we'll get into what that would be. In fact, just the logic of up here, right? So let's take a look here. So if he's cut with 79 days left, this would be if he's cut with 80 days left. Yes, that's right. Okay, I think that, yeah, okay. And so the counter of that is what would a player get if they were signed on this day? And that would be 79 days left, right? So they would make that much. And this would be that times 80, right? Am I losing my mind? Check my math. Oops. Yeah. These should be 1620564. Okay. So yeah, that was just a math check. Okay, cool. So this would be Cook's waived figure. And this would be a player signing a ROS, rest of season contract on those particular days. And so we talked about this, right? Like the Lakers, if they sign somebody on a certain day, they're going to fit in, right? They can sign somebody if they were at 912 because they were making 887 or 876. So this is going to be our working assumption. I don't know the exact date or time that they cut Cook. So I'm going to go with the assumption that this is it. And so let's copy and paste it here. The reason I copy and paste is that somebody may be watching this stream at a later date and they want to follow along with us. So let's say that Cook is 743683. And let's make it gray. And let's cut and paste and move it down here. Todd, you ask, I don't think that worked, did it? Yeah, it did. No, it didn't. He's asking, is the 10-day contract also on a prorated salary? So it's just 10 days times that day rate. So a 10-day contract is right here, right? Like if you take their salary divided by the number of days in the season, you get 11,100 per day. So you multiply it times 10. This is what a 10-day contract would be. And then you do have, that's all based on YOS. So it'd be 898 would be their base salary, or 256 would be for like a 10-year contract, 10-year veteran rather. I showed this before a little bit, but like let's say it was 898,310. The 10-day contract would be 61,528. So it's based on the number of days. And so let me finish cleaning this up and make sure the total is right. Yep. Okay, so this is where the Lakers will be within a margin of $11,000. So a negligible margin. So this is where the Lakers stand now. So let's say that they want to sign a player on, let's say they want to sign two players on the 27th. So, okay. Say they want to sign two players on the 27th of February. Okay, let me count these here. We're going to just, so we can see a little bit easier. So we can exactly know what we're talking about here. So the Lakers are at 13. You have to be at 14. So the Lakers are under pressure. I think they have, I'm not looking at it, a week. It's a week. Maybe 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Pretty sure it's, I can look it up. It's probably in Larry Kuhn's FAQ. Oh, by the way, like the video, subscribe. If you're willing to donate, please, you'll see my Patreon, which will get you access to my Discord server, Venmo, and and PayPal links, and I'm really just at Eric Pincus, or my PayPal is eric.pincus@gmail.com, which is my email as well. And subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I think that I'm supposed to say that every so often, so it's true. Okay, so the Lakers have some time, and we can look it up if we have time in Larry's FAQ to make sure, like, what's the exact timing that they have till they have to fit them. Till they have until March. Is it 2 weeks? Or is it maybe 10 days? I don't know. I'll look into it. But they have to must fill this spot. This is optional. Have to have 14 players. But you don't have to have it at any given moment. You have like a little cushion there. So if we were to say, let me copy this again, and let's copy this number right here. Let me format it. Cool. Okay. And if we fill it in here, min ROS as of 12/27/21. ROS meaning rest of season. Min ROS rest of season. And it doesn't matter if they're 0 or 1 year service, because they would earn that amount, but their tax number would be adjusted up. And as you can see, the Lakers are, by cutting Cook, immediately in a position where they can sign 2 guys to get to 15 for the rest of the season and be under the hard cap. So that is fundamentally the obvious answer as to why they're doing it. Because number one, Cook is not part of the rotation, really well liked in the locker room, friends with AD, means a lot to the team. But technically, they don't really need him on the court, unfortunately. And, some of that has to do with, you've got Dennis Schroeder and Alex Caruso. You've got KCP, and they're going to get the lion's share of the minutes. Talen Horton-Tucker's done really well. And I have a video that is pinned to my Twitter timeline, and it's on my YouTube channel, that breaks down his Arenas rule options, how no one can outpay the Lakers. They're limited in what they can spend. And I break it down in detail. So check that video out. So that's THT. And so all of those, not to mention Wesley Matthews, all of those players are basically why Cook is at the end of the bench. I think he adds an offensive element and a tremendous, he's a great guy. He's extremely likable, and he's a positive to have on your team, whether he plays or not. Similar to Jared Dudley, and some people don't fully understand how vital it is to have really positive, happy, generous people with knowledge in your locker room who are happy to help younger players, who are happy to take some of the burden off of the older, the veterans. Like Jared Dudley mentors Kyle Kuzma a lot. Quinn Cook, someone who's great to have around young players. And so I wish him well. He could still end up back in the Lakers on a 10-day or whatever, but this is where they are right now. They are now in position where they can fill the spots. And if we were to take a look at where they're at right now, because of injury without Dennis, but put Dennis back in here, whether we call THT the backup point guard or shooting guard is immaterial. They're at KCP and they're at AC. Some of these are interchangeable, these positions. And you have LBJ, and this is the problem right here, right? No AD, you have Kuz for now. And then it's kind of Markieff, who's not been great. You have Gasol, who has his limitations. Trez, who's been tremendous, in my opinion, for them. He has some flaws, certainly, but he's been really good for them. Let me make sure I'm not, and I got to put in Wes here. So this is kind of the rotation, right? Make sure I didn't leave out anybody. I'm sure I did. So LeBron, AD. So injured is AD, out of the rotation for the most part. You've got Kaycock, Kostas, who are on the two ways, and then Dudley and McKinney. Let me see if I left someone out. There's only 13, right? Dennett, Wes, Kyle, Kuzma, Caruso, Gasol, McKinney, Morris, Dudley, Cook, Taylor Horton Tucker, Kaycock. Yeah, that's it. And so, by and large, like Vogel would prefer an 8-man rotation, but will go to 9 or 10 as needed, right? So we're talking about this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can see that even without AD, there are limited minutes for guys like Markieff or Wes, or sometimes THT doesn't play. And right now it's a little funky because Dennis has been out, but he'll be back soon. And by the way, if you don't notice what they're missing with Dennis Schroeder the last few games, it's easy to point at, they don't have AD. But I think a lot of their struggles are that they don't have Dennis. Because it's like, if you saw the end of the game against the Wizards, it's like, give LeBron the ball, get out of the way to a fault. And I know, like, Caruso took some shots recently in end-game situations. Kuzma took some end-game shots. But they're all like, give the ball to LeBron, get out of the way, and if you get the ball back, take the shot. Whereas when you have Dennis on, it's the same thing as when you had Rondo. Now you have another creator who's not afraid to do something. And I'm not saying that Kuzma's afraid, but Kuzma's ball handling skills aren't at the same level as a ball handler like LeBron or Kuzma. Caruso, same thing. He's not a creator for himself. He's really a combo. THT is all about doing everything that you would want someone to do in that role. But he's very young and one of the youngest guys in the league, so he's prone to just like barreling in and not making good decisions, which comes with the age. Players you hope grow out of that, and I expect he would. How are we doing? Keeping up? Checking in on our chat. I use our chat to make sure that we're still live and that there's nothing funky. I see stream says excellent condition. It's all in the green. Appreciate all you guys coming on and enjoying and watching. All right, so but if we were to take a look, the reality is, thanks, Des, thanks. Like there's real, when AD is healthy, there really isn't room in the rotation for anyone else. They barely have minutes for Wes Markieff, right? And even though the Lakers shooting has been pretty crappy of late, I think it's safe to say that DS, KCP, THT, ACR rotation staples regardless, and thus any 1-2 position minutes wouldn't be available for a new player. That's my opinion. Could be wrong. Wes fills in some 2 minutes and some 3 minutes. So there is potential for him at 3 to be in the rotation. And the way the Lakers play and the way that most people play in this league, there's really 3 positions now. There's ball handler, wing, and big. Some teams will really only play with 2 positions, like the Rockets in recent time have only played with 2 when they had Harden and all that. It would be a ball handler and 4 wings. But the Lakers are clearly a team that wants to be a bigger team, right? And so they play AD on the wing, or they'll play him. You can even argue. What's up, Mateo? You can even argue that technically they're a 2 big team with 2 wings and a ball handler. So the Lakers are a little bit of an aberration, but realistically there's 1 big, and AD is more of a wing player. He's creating a lot of face up, shoots a lot of perimeter shots, stands out on the perimeter, and gets the ball in motion into different spots that are, he's got his spot on the block and whatnot. So he does have some traditional low post, but he's more of a face up. He's closer to a Kevin Garnett than he is to a Shaquille O'Neal. That's where I'm getting at. The issues that you have, obviously the minutes that LeBron is going to get aren't going to be displaced. So obviously when healthy, the LBJ AD minutes aren't going to be displaced. And in the playoffs, magnified, right? They'll probably play more minutes, although LeBron's playing a ton right now with AD out. So the idea is that there's really not a lot of room in the rotation. So the area of weakness is that Gasol is older and slower and not always impactful. In ways he can be very impactful and is not a loss, on the roster. But it's a concern at times. And then Trez being 6'7"-ish, maybe 6'6", maybe 6'8", probably listed at 6'8". He's probably not 6'8", is undersized. So in the playoffs, that might be an issue. At times, it will definitely be a strength. So I don't think that's a black and white case. But you can see that it's like, technically the Lakers could use one more big in case Gasol is hurt. Technically, they could use a starting center in place of Gasol. And so the Cousins, I would say the need is an athletic shot blocking defender who doesn't need the ball and is okay with very limited minutes at times because of Gasol and Trez and AD at 5, right? So does that sound like Cousins? Chat, what do you think? Does that sound like Cousins? An athletic shot blocking defender who doesn't need the ball and is okay with very limited minutes at times to Gasol, Trez, and AD. Feeling like, no. I think that you can make the argument for Cousins just based on his raw talent and his ability to score. Corey McKinney says no. Boogie was never really the most athletic dude anyway. Certainly super talented when he was healthy before his rash of injuries. Mr. Lee says not at all. So I could see them going after Cousins because of the name, because of his history with the team. You could also argue because of his history with the team, they have a better sense of what he can and can't do. And so it's not shocking to me that the answer is that they want someone else. Closer to the need is someone like Whiteside. Number one, he's a very good rebounder and shot blocker. But I'd argue that number two, he's not really a great defender. That's my opinion anyway. My thoughts on Whiteside is that he does block shots and cause players to be aware that when they're penetrating that there's a shot blocker there and they're going to have to adjust how they approach it. So he is a deterrent at the basket, similar to what JaVale would do. He's bigger and heavier and stronger. I don't know about taller than JaVale. I haven't looked at their measurements, but they're in the same range of 7 feet tall. But Whiteside, I believe, takes up more physical space, and he's stronger. A little bit less of a high flyer. I don't think he's a good defender on position. Like, if you have Whiteside guarding Nikola Jokic, I feel like there's going to be a certain amount of let's just say I feel like Jokic is going to know how to play him and know how to beat him by using his mind. Jokic is one of the brightest players, smartest players out there. As far as, his ability to run an entire offense is brilliant. Right, and the key is with Whiteside is keep him focused, keep him going. And so when you have someone like LeBron, I think it's easy to keep players engaged. Todd Tango saying Whiteside is solid when engaged. True. And I think LeBron can keep people engaged. But we get back to this, okay with very limited minutes at times because of Gasol, Trez, and AD. There are questions that I have about Whiteside's ability to stay focused. in a role where he has very limited minutes, is he able to do that? The one thing that you could say about JaVale, whether you like him, love him, hate him, I can't see anyone hating him because he's really likable. When he wasn't playing, he was just as passionate cheering on his teammates, getting guys going in the pregame. I mean, that's what you want. You want somebody who's fully bought in, and I think it bled over to Dwight, who at times, Dwight Howard last year, who played a starting role, played a bench role, played a role where he barely even played in some series in the playoffs. And I think that the environment kept Dwight engaged, whereas there have been times where Dwight hasn't been engaged and has had some of those Whiteside kind of issues that I think this environment overcame. So that's the question. If they traded for Whiteside, it's an easier solution would be Dedmon. He's available. There are other bigs out there that we can probably think about and look at. How many of them are going to be, the right fit? They have to be willing to play a very small role, in my opinion, and then be ready to start if Gasol is hurt. Corey McKinney says that Gasol is still one of the best post-up defenders. So what Marc Gasol has is that he has height and heft and smarts. And so there are plays where someone like Jokic is going to trick and outsmart Gasol and get around him. And you'll find a highlight where he'll get beat off the dribble by Jokic, and Jokic will do a little dream shake or something. But Jokic has to go to additional moves and work harder to do it against someone like Marc Gasol than he does against someone who isn't as smart a defender. So there is value there in what Marc Gasol can bring. He's just not going to have value against every team. And as the Lakers play shorter, faster teams that are playing smaller, Gasol's going to have a smaller and smaller role, and Trez is going to have a bigger role. But then there are times where Lakers want to go big. And so this is, where they're at. So, let me see if there's any other notes here. In the front row, says McGee was completely a team player, and it was glorious. I enjoyed watching JaVale's energy. Brian G says, sounds like we had that in Dwight as far as what the Lakers had. Yeah, the Lakers could have re-signed Dwight. They were more focused on signing Marc Gasol. That was more of a priority for them. And Dwight, had he been patient, maybe they would have signed him over Gasol, but he rushed to make a decision, kind of out of maybe panic that he wasn't going to get a spot. And I don't blame him, because the center spots went really quick, and it was really a difficult situation. And he doesn't want to be where he was before, which was in a non-guaranteed situation. So I get it. And the Lakers, you could say they messed it up. And if you ask Dwight, he would probably say, yeah, the Lakers messed it up. That's his point of view. The Lakers may have just said, we're not ready to commit to Dwight because we're looking at all of our options. And he, in that limbo, he rushed and made a decision that they would have matched and would have been happy to keep him. So I don't know the answer. We'll find out. I think that what Marc brings is really valuable as an offensive player and as a potential body against Jokic, and he's older and slower and doesn't get off the ground. Let's see if there's any other comments I missed here. I think we're mostly caught up, and we'll talk about PJ Tucker in a minute. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so looking back at the numbers, we see that the Lakers, by cutting Cook, now this is our main answer. There are other answers as well, and one of them could be, let's copy this here. If we take a look at Alfonso McKinney, this is bolded here. He's a piece they can trade for a min player. So I don't know if they want to trade him. Excuse me. But he's someone that they could potentially trade. I'm going by his rotation, his role in the rotation. He doesn't play. You would think he's expendable. He is under contract for multiple years, but they're not really giving him a chance to play. And I'll say this. The Lakers could use one more big wing defender. Someone who can challenge Kawhi, Paul George, Tatum. I mean, I guess it'd be Giannis. I'm leaving out some, plenty of big wings. And KCP is a little too short, to be honest. So is Wes, though he's stockier than KCP. Kuz has shown improved value guarding bigger wings, but isn't necessarily the 100% answer. LeBron and AD can guard bigger wings, and in the playoffs when it matters, they probably do so. However, it would be nice for the Lakers if they had a guy who could fill that role. And the obvious answer is someone like Trevor Ariza, if he's in shape, and if the Thunder are willing to buy him out. They are not currently and want to trade him. Okay, so just throwing out, taking a look. So Chris Alston says Rondé Hollis-Jefferson is a must-add at the wing now that they have 2 spots open. Maybe. He's somebody who's a tough defender. Certainly has experience. He came in as I think a 2-3 who at this point is someone who probably plays 4 in the NBA as a defensive player. Kind of an offensive liability. And it would be ideal to get somebody who can do that, who can also hit a shot or two. You can argue Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. You could argue Ariza if he's bought out. I'll just throw in real quick that Ariza is earning 12.8, isn't it? Off the top of my head. Yep, wow, I'm pretty decent at what I do, I guess. So this is Ariza. Let's see if that pastes there. So not a trade target, but buyout. So, whoa. Let's just put in real quick. What if the Lakers wanted to trade for Whiteside? Let's throw that logic out there. And what is the difficulty? So Whiteside is a minimum guy. So let's just pop it in here. Whiteside at the min 1620564. So the issue is, let's say that they sign 2 minimum players. They would have to trade out McKinney to get that to work. So one option is trade McKinney. And that would look like, we're loosely assuming that they also sign these other 2 players. I don't think that would be the case, but this would be Hassan Whiteside via trade. And as you can see, totally works. So now they have, let's call this a min wing defender and a min shooter like Corver type. I'm just throwing out. I don't think it would be a low minute, like dude never plays, but they need shooting. I don't think the Lakers do this, but this is a legal way that they could do things. They could sign a min shooter, sign a wing defender, and trade McKinney for Whiteside and stay under the hard cap. But let's say the Kings don't want McKinney, and let's say the Lakers have McKinney on the books. Let me pull him up, and are unable to trade McKinney, but wanted to trade for Whiteside here and use one of these spots. So they're able to trade for him without matching because he makes the minimum. And as you can see now, this minimum shooter Corver type puts them over. In this case, I would say they would need a wing defender. Min illegal over the hard cap. So you can see that if they were to trade for somebody like Hassan Whiteside and just acquire that salary without losing McKinney's money, then they can't go to 15 again. So now there would be a point. So if let's take that out, right? So there is a point where they would be able to sign a player, but we're talking about like, what did we say? It was 11,000 a day, right? So if it was 11,100, I think I did too many zeros. Yeah. There it is. If we do that, this divided by that, so it'd be like 15 days. So like they could sign someone with like 15 days left in the season. Someone with, say, 15 days left in the season. Under this math, trading for someone like Whiteside, but not losing McKinney, is a problem because now you can't sign that 15th player. You can't get that wing. And maybe that's okay. Maybe they're like, we just need one more body. We're not going to go to 15. We're cool. Certainly a viable option. Another path would be indirect, would be McKinney. Let's just pull him out. Put him here. You could do McKinney. I'm typing this at the bottom. I'll scroll up. Traded to a third team. And Whiteside. Separate trade from Kings. This is a possibility as well. It's the same math as above. And I'll just copy and paste that here. And so, you know, again, these are assuming they sign someone on the 27th. Signing later means less money, which is why, you know, you can see that in this case, you can sign someone with 178. Actually, let's see, is that, yeah, I had that. Let me delete that. In the case here, when you've got 169, you have, depending on when you sign someone, is gonna figure out what that amount is, that prorated amount. So I think that's kind of the main point here. I want to talk a little bit about PJ Tucker. All right, so let's take a look here. Let's take a look at the chat, make sure we're caught up. Reminder, please, let me punch this up. Larry, where are you? Larry, there you are. Okay. This is this little reminder that if you are interested in learning about the CBA, Larry's class is the best. I've taught with Larry over at Sports Business Classroom. I bet a lot of people in the chat are SBC folk. If you are, hit me up in the chat and say SBC. If you're interested in learning about this stuff, Larry's class is the best. It's a tremendous video program. You're going to learn from the best. I'm good at what I do. I learned from Larry many, many years ago. And so he's someone who's been a mentor to me for a really long time. So I have great respect for him. You're going to get your money's worth. And if you use my code Pincus, you'll get a 10% discount. And it goes, the money, the sponsorship through Sports Business Classroom through CBA Mastery with Larry Kuhn goes towards my channel. So also, if you want to use a payment plan, the code is PincusPP. Also, like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, all that groovy stuff. And then if you're feeling generous, donate through Venmo, PayPal, all at Eric Pincus. My Patreon will help you get into the Discord server where we have got a lot of fun people, a lot of SBC folk, and a lot of NBA people who just love to talk this stuff 24/7. All right, chat. So let me read up a few things, and then we'll get into the last topic, which is PJ Tucker. Pow signed with Rondé Hollis Jefferson. McKinney can defend and can shoot. You know, Mr. Lee, I don't know. McKinney, if he can defend and shoot, he hasn't gotten the opportunity here. And like Taylor Horton Tucker did so well in practice. Of course, Lakers barely ever practice this year. But when they practice, they've all but forced Vogel's hand. And I don't know if McKinney's done that. All right, Izzy. So let's take a look at your question or your comment. It says Tucker trade could take up to 3 players like West, Markieff, and McKinney to get it done. Let's take a look. All right, so PJ Tucker. And we're going to take a look over at Houston. He is making 7,969,537. Let's take a quick look together. All right, here we are, Basketball Insiders. Pulling up Houston. Okay, so the first question. They are going to cut Boogie. I don't think they're trading him. It's certainly possible that happens before the deadline, but I don't expect that. They actually fully guaranteed him about like 4 or 5 days ago. He wasn't guaranteed. It was a generous thing for the Rockets to basically say, okay, we're going to pay you and then let you leave. And then I think they're going to keep Nwaba. They're certainly going to keep Tate, who's been a really nice young player for them. And so they're at 13 players with 2 non-partially guaranteed. And so if we assume that they keep them, they're at 15 guaranteed. Minus Cousins is 14. So they have 1 spot open. So here, I'm scrolling a little too much. John Wall, Oladipo, Gordon, Wood, Exum. I don't know where they are on Exum. I don't expect they would cut him or trade him, but I mean, they would trade him, I guess, but I don't know how much value he has. I don't know if they're, it's possible you could say they could cut a Macklemore, but he's still young. Karooks is someone young. Porter's been doing well in the G League. Sterling Brown. They already cut Clemens, Tate, KJ Martin. So if they're going to make a trade with the Lakers that involves multiple pieces, they need to have the roster space to take on multiple pieces. The answer could be a third team. So I just wanted to set the framework. Okay, so we're PJ Tucker. We're just going like, what if the Lakers and Rockets made a PJ Tucker trade? What would that look like with our math? And so let's take a look at that real quick. Hello. All right, so in anything we do, we have to be cognizant of the hard cap, right? So let's take our beginning numbers here, the very top, before we did anything, where we have, here it is. There it is. Incentives. This was our original worksheet. All right, scrolling down, we're already on line 400-ish. Okay, so how could this work? So for one, what is the math? So the basic idea is that if the Lakers are going to match, they are a team over the tax. So Lakers over the tax, their salary matching in trade is exclusively the 125% plus 100K. Normally for under the cap tax teams, there's a matching at 175% plus 100K or flat padding of $5 million. Depends on outgoing salary amount. In Lakers' case, only 125% plus 100K because of their tax status. Make sense? Another duck says Boogie already got released today. I don't know if that's true. Is it true? There were reports it was going to happen. Did it happen? Did the Rockets announce it, and did they send out a release that it happened? I'm checking my email real quick. A lot of times what comes out in the media as what is going to happen is not what has actually happened yet. So I'm just going to pull up Rockets and see. I do not have any press releases from the Rockets today. So my interpretation is that it hasn't happened yet. Could be happening right now. The deadline is within an hour of when we're recording this. It's almost 1 p.m. Okay, so I don't think that Boogie got released. I think he will be released. It's been announced he'll be released. It's going to happen, but I don't think it has. Okay, so because of what we just said here with the 125, we can reverse engineer PJ Tucker, right? All right, so let's take a look. So let's subtract 100,000, and then that's less 100K, and then divided by 125%. Lakers required outgoing salary for Trucker. Fix that typo. Okay, so right off the bat, the Lakers need to send out a certain amount. We're going to talk about the hard cap in a minute, but when we go back to our numbers here, we're going to go like this. Okay, right off the bat, I'm going to delete LeBron. Oops. They're not going to trade LeBron for PJ Tucker. Never mind the salary matching. Let me pull up the chat here, make sure we're not losing you. Okay. And then they're not going to trade Anthony Davis. I would be absolutely stunned if they traded Dennis Schroeder for him. It appears that Quinn Cook is not going to be part of that equation. And then I would be stunned if it was Alex Caruso, who seems a very valuable part of what they're doing. I would be stunned if it was Kyle Kuzma, but I'll leave him in there just for a second, just for instructional purposes. They're not going to trade Montrez, I don't think. So for one, Clutch, he has 1 year Bird, can block it. So does he. And technically he did. Okay. All right, so we're trying to get to 6'3". So there are plenty of ways to get to 6'3". But the challenge is let's say Clutch and Lakers value too much. Clutch and Lakers value too much. This is my opinion. Clutch and not a guy the Lakers want to cut or be rid of, in my opinion. So the ones I'm going to put here, doubtful. Excuse me. I want to include Kuzma because I want to go over the math real quick. Of Poison Pill. And then, so really, we've shrunk it down pretty quickly. If we do Wes, and McKinney, Gasol, and let's include these two dudes right here. And we've got Cook out of the equation, right? So let's sum this up. I mean, we're well over. Right? So we're well over that. Excuse me. So the goal. Give me a second. I'll scroll up. Goal is this right here. Okay. This is goal for PJ Tucker. So there are ways to get to there, but let's start with McKinney because he's not in the rotation. You figure if they're bringing in another power forward, and let's say that Morris is willing to accept a trade, we're still not close, right? We're not even halfway there, or we're just about, yeah, we're halfway there, but we're definitely not there. If you say, well, Dudley doesn't play much, still not there, right? So at some point it's going to be someone expensive. Let's say it was Matthews. Well, now you're there. So this could be basically, if we were to swap this, we could do Markieff Morris / Dudley. Okay, So Daz, I did scroll. I think you guys are good. If you can't see something, let me know. So I did some math here. Basically, there's no real way to do it without a Wes or a Marc Gasol in the mix. Let's see what that would look like with Gasol instead of Wes. So we are short of the goal if we're going for PJ Tucker. If you're McKinney, Morris, or Dudley. So what you could do is you could do Morris and Dudley. Okay, so now the issue is Rockets would need space for 4 players in. They would be at 13 without Cousins, and they would be at 12 without Tucker, right? Tucker out. And so if they're at 12, they have room for 3 in, not 4. So they would be required to cut 1 more person. And that may be prohibitive if they don't want to, right? Maybe they don't want to cut any of their guys. So this is an easier situation. And in this, it would be Rockets. So Rockets are, we'll say they're at 14, right? It's -1 Tucker, and then +3 in from Lakers. It's too many. So this one was actually worse than we thought, right? This was if we did the one above, which was 4 in for the Lakers, that puts them at 17. So they have room for 2 in this case, not 4. And so they would be required to cut 2 more players. Rockets need to cut 1 more. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, 15. It was 15, assuming they want to keep Nwaba and Tate. It's 14 without Cousins. It's 13 with Tucker. You're bringing in 3. That's 16. Okay. Izzy saying that Bobby Marks just tweeted that Boogie will clear waivers 5 p.m. Eastern. That would be in a few days. And according to Lakers Nation, Boogie, so piece 4, we covered that. I'm not looking at Lakers Nation. Obviously, we're chatting here. I know that I had seen that it was, I believe, Brad Turner with the LA Times who reported that the Lakers were not going after Cousins. And we've kind of touched on why not, and I think the chat all agreed that he didn't really fit the need of what the Lakers are missing, right? Like they need a low-minute, defensive-minded big who doesn't need the ball, who's athletic and can block shots. None of that is Boogie Cousins, but I could argue with AD out, sure. So Kuba is saying, why would the Rockets do that? Could they get better from other teams for Tucker? Maybe. We haven't gotten to that part yet. We're just looking to see, is there a math equation that even is possible to get to Tucker? And it might be as simple as the Lakers give a second-round pick. They may value McKinney as a young player. They may be able to turn around Wes Matthews in another trade. In this math, there are pathways. And you could say, well, they would want Kuzma. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the issue is that the Rockets are going to have to cut somebody to make this work. So right off the bat, there is another solution to this. It would be a third team can take a player like Dudley, Morris, Matthews, McKinney, Gasol, etc. However you fashion this, everything that I'm saying that doesn't work, that's a little hard to read there, it can work if you have a third team, but that makes it more complicated. All right, but now let's just take a quick look, and let's just say this is the answer here, okay? Let's go with this. Let's just take a quick peek at what it would mean for the Lakers without Cook. Let me find our our last operational thing without, there it is. Cook, there it is. Okay. Give me a second to copy. Okay. Okay, so now let's take this logic and let's say that it's no offense to Markieff. I'm just doing this as an exercise, and Wes and McKinney. And the Rockets and the Lakers, I'll figure it out as far as where they're going. And if we do that times 1.25 plus 100, you can see that that's enough to bring in PJ Tucker's salary, which I need to grab. Give me a second. I'm trying to speed up a little bit. Okay, so bear with me. I'm going to pull out Wes, McKinney, and Markieff. And I'm going to plug in Dudley. Again, we're not debating the merits of talent. Right now we're just doing math to see is this even possible. And again, it could be Markieff instead of Dudley. They have the one-year bird where they can block it. And so must fill. Let's just copy this. Okay, so now the Lakers have traded out 3. They've added 1. They need to get back to 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, and as we said, let's say that they were signing players as of the 20. So they can do this. Give me a second here. Copy this. Let's say they sign just copy the number. Do you see the issue here? Let's say that they sign a player on a certain date. Let's say they even get it down where it can be 700,000. We could do the math, but let's say, 700, 1, 2, 3. If they sign one player here, now they can't sign the second player. So you could see that while we were able to make this work, it's not legal because it's how do you fill the spot? You can't. Like you can't get back to the league minimum if you've got if that's what you're sending out. You have to send out more salary. So the issue at play is that the Lakers aren't going to be able to do a simple trade like McKinney, Markieff, Dudley, Wes for someone like PJ Tucker and then fill their roster back to the minimum. I threw in some rough proration dates, right? Like they have to get to 14 at a certain time frame, and if we give them a little padding, we could play with it a little bit, but we're not off by 100,000. We're off by like 1.3 million, and there's no way to fix that unless you're trading someone else for almost no salary and replacing them. So this is illegal. Won't work. Hard cap issues. Okay, so let's do one more combination and then we'll move on to some other little tidbits and then we'll wrap the stream. If we did something more like this, where we took Gasol let's see. These are the more expensive players, right? If we do, let's do, might have to do, you might have to do 4. Let's do 4 for 1. And it doesn't have to be Markieff, so let's put in Morris/Dudley. Let's see if this works. And I'll scroll down in a minute. Okay, so you see the advantage here. The Lakers are sending out 9.57. They're taking back 7.9. Again, we have the roster issue with the Rockets, right? So they're going to have to get a third team involved, whatever. Let's see what that would do real quick. And let me change this. Over the hard cap. Illegal. Okay, so let's say that let me make sure I got the right players in here. So we've lost, in addition, this gentleman here. Okay, so now that I want to make sure I got that right. I think that works. So let's say you've got LeBron, AD, Dennis, KCP, Trez, PJ Tucker, Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso, Jared Dudley, and Taylor Horton Tucker. So you have traded Wes. So this is the number here. So they're under the hard cap. And in fact, they can probably do, let's see. Let's do the earliest signing.